Hi everyone, hope everyone's doing well. Right now I'm in my basement that I'm working on, and I just wanted to talk real quick with Liteform common seams. This may apply to other ICF manufacturers, I'm not entirely sure, but specifically Liteform and common seams. So I just want to share this so that nobody else has the same issue I have if you're working with Liteform. So going back a couple years, when I first started really getting in ICFs and wanting to use them and kind of justifying the price difference, I started watching some YouTubers. I believe they were like in Idaho, and they were using Liteform as well. And they actually had this exact same issue. So I thought I outsmarted it. I thought that if I designed my whole house around the Liteform blocks that I could avoid a common seam. So what is a common seam? So here is a common seam. You can see where the seam, goes all the way down through the blocks. The seams are not staggered like here. Okay, so that's what the common seam is. So why do I need a common seam? So here's what happens. So if you don't use a common seam, the reason why you actually have one, from what my understanding or from what I'm being told by the manufacturer is because these blocks are not perfect. And weather conditions like the sun and the temperature can affect how much they're off. So they might only be off, a couple 30 seconds, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, something like that. But if you add that up over a long run and you don't have any breaks in it, it starts that up, and then that's when you start having problems. Kind of the problem I was having is these blocks were kind of running along this way, and then on the next row they'd be running along this way. Next thing you know, you're like 1/8 of an inch off on those little keyways, and then you won't be able to get them to lock in. So that's why you have to have the common seam, because basically because the foam blocks aren't perfect. Now, if you have a doorway or something like that goes all the way down, like I do, that's a common seam. That's basically a break in the wall, so that you can kind of start fresh, I guess you would say. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to start with the corner blocks. I got corner blocks, and they're 4 feet on one side and 2 feet on the other side. But so then on the inside, it's basically like 3 feet by 1 feet. So you start with a corner block and you work from the corners and you work them both to where they meet in the middle. And then what you should have in the middle, what you'll end up having is some blocks that don't quite fit together. There'll be a little bit too much space, like it's just a little too long. So you'll have to cut the tongue, and then you're supposed to have about a pinky width, in between for this crack so the foam can get in there. I need to get more foam in there. I can see that already. But so you put the foam in the common seam, and then I need to still do this. You have to put on, like some scabbings, some boards across there to help secure it for the concrete pour. So I already had, by the time I caught my mistake, I already had my weatherproofing on the outside for the water. So it actually goes up to the second row on the outside. So after speaking with the manufacturer, it was okay. I didn't have to make the common seam go all the way to the bottom. So I just started it where it was at. Now the blocks are snapping into place better. But you have to have that common seam, because the first thing you'll notice if you don't have a common seam is on the very first row, when you put your very first layer down, it'll be too big. So my box or my rectangle is supposed to be 28 feet this way, and then 44 feet this way. And after my first layer, I was 28 feet 1/2 inches wide on both sides, and then I was about 44 1 inch and 3/4. So I grew 1 inch and 3/4 lengthwise, and then 1/2 inch widthwise. And I thought to myself, okay, no big deal. It's just like a little over 1 inch over 44 feet, not a big deal. I can work around that. That was my first red flag. I should have said something. I should have stopped and then talked with the manufacturer, and then I would have figured it out from the beginning. because what I should have is I should have started the corners. Instead, what I did is I started in one corner and then just built a box all the way around. But I should have started in the corners. That would keep it inside of your chalk lines. So that's the first sign that something's not right, that you need to get a common seam. So the back wall, I put a common seam in it as well. It was kind of borderline. They were still fitting together okay, but I didn't want to have any problems going up, so I just went ahead and started putting in a common seam. So it kind of breaks. I always had the feeling like you don't want to, cut these seams in your walls like this. You want it to be staggered, but you have to kind of get over that. So even though it does weaken the form when you first cut it, as you go and you put the foam in there and you put the board on there, it's just as strong or stronger than it was before. And you have to remember that this foam is just a form, and there's really no way to design a perfect box around these blocks. You're going to need to have some common seams in places where you can accommodate those little differences in the blocks. So I just wanted to share that information. It slowed me down not a lot because I kind of seen it coming. Like I said, I knew about the common seam, and I knew that you're technically supposed to have one, but I thought if I designed it perfectly around the blocks that I could get away with it, and I didn't realize that those little differences could add up. So it's getting ready to rain, so that's been another reason why I haven't been able to work too much. It's kind of been raining off and on the last few days, so it kind of makes it crummy days to work in. But hope everyone's doing well, and if you're wanting to use Liteform, just make sure you understand what a common seam is. Talk to them, make sure they know what you're doing. And if you think you're going to build a perfect house using these blocks like Legos, like they're all going to perfectly snap in together, from my experience, that's just not how it works. So you might want to check on that. But with that, I wish everybody luck and have a good day.